think who has more leverage in this scenario when it comes to Harden? Is it Harden or is it the Rockets?
Well, to me, it's always the team when you have a player under contract. To a lesser degree, for example, Max, I would use Dak Prescott, even though we're talking apples and oranges to some degree as it pertains to football compared to basketball. The fact of the matter is that when you have the license to franchise tag Dak Prescott, not just 1 year, but another year, what have you, you can go to the negotiating table. You don't necessarily have to capitulate to his demands or his wishes, and he ends up stuck in a situation that he has to work with. The situation is similar with James Harden in this regard. The fact is he's owed $41 million, I'm sorry, 41.2 million this upcoming season, and then $44 million the next season before his player option kicks in. So he's under contract. Now, obviously, he's a superstar in this league, and you don't want to disgruntle James Harden. But the flip side is he is under contract. And so it's one thing to sit up there and say you want out. It's another thing to literally designate a particular team you want to land towards. The Houston Rockets know they want fair and equitable compensation, and that's far difficult to do when a player comes out and says, that specifically is where I want to go, because you can always say that didn't necessarily work out, as opposed to a guy that just says, just get me the hell up out of here. You can't sit up there and say you can't find some place for him to go. But when he wants one particular place, that's much harder to do. Those are the reasons why I think, along with the Dwight Howard and the CP3 situation with Harden, Max, where Harden wanted them gone, I think those are the kind of things that puts Houston in some position of leverage.
They both have leverage. That's true. But if the question is who has more leverage, I'll say James Harden. I agree. If he says, I only want to play for Brooklyn, Houston can tell him, tough, we're not going to send you to Brooklyn. But would another team really try to make a move and mortgage the house for James Harden if they believed he wasn't going to stay there? It's possible. Maybe a team like Philadelphia says, well, he thinks he wants Brooklyn now. If we get him down here, he'll want to stay or something like that. I don't know, though, that they bring the kind of deal that it would take to move him, that the Rockets would really like. Now, I agree, the team has some leverage because it's a 2-year contract. If it was 2 years left on the deal, and then it's a player option. If it was 1 year left on the deal, they really wouldn't have much, because he'd be like, look, you're going to be left holding the bag. You got to move me. You got to move me now, or at least the trade deadline. And by then, you really only have him for a short rental if you're not the Brooklyn Nets, so the team doesn't get much back. The team has some leverage, but the NBA superstars have enormous leverage. This is a player-driven league. I've said it many times. In Major League Baseball, most important person in the franchise is the GM. In the NFL, the most important person is the head coach. And in the NBA, the most important person is the franchise player. James Harden, as a franchise player, as a legit MVP caliber player, has enormous leverage here. It's not that his team doesn't have any, but he has more. And if he says he wants to play for the Nets, good luck getting a deal where you're getting any kind of real value for him, if it's not at least a 3-way deal or a 4-way deal where Harden winds up where he wants to be.
All right, well, we are bringing someone in to break the tie. We've got NBA champion Kendrick Perkins in the house. All right, so, Perk, the question here is who has more leverage in the situation as it pertains to Harden? Is it Harden or the Rockets? Stephen A. said it was the Rockets. Max said Harden. So what do you think?
It's the Rockets by a long shot. James Harden has no leverage right now because he still have 2 years left under his contract, and we see that right now. If James Harden had all the leverage, the trade would have been done. The Rockets are in control. They don't have to trade James Harden. He's signed to the Houston Rockets. They could hold on to him until the remainder of his contract is done. So they don't have to trade him, and they definitely don't have to trade him to where he want to be traded. They don't owe him that. So right now, let me tell you something. The thing with James Harden messed up at is that he should have kept the trade in-house and not made it public. When you make it public, now you make it hard for everyone, and you could almost have the organization be rebellious, especially when you pick a destination. Because look, and like I said before, the Rockets are not just going to give James Harden away. I said this yesterday. James Harden is their Rolls Royce. and they're not about to just trade him for Escalade and 2 Audi trucks. No, they're going to want back a Ferrari or something to that nature. So right now, the Houston Rockets have all the leverage, and they're showing us that because they're not giving in to what he wants.
On day 2, they're not.
Well, let me say this to you, KP. They are trying, though. I mean, they're just like you said. They want the farm. They ain't giving them away for nothing. They've got to get significant compensation for him. You're absolutely right about that. But they recognize that he wants to leave, and here's why I'm told they don't necessarily have a problem with it. They understand where they are. They know they want to get significant compensation for him. But James Harden has made it clear to them he loves Houston. It's where he'd like to end his career. It's just that at this stage and point, he knows they can't win a title. So he wants to go somewhere to win a title and then hopefully return before his career is over, if you believe that. The bottom line is that James Harden, you are absolutely right. Like I said earlier, I don't believe he has the leverage, but I believe the reason that his leverage have diminished so significantly is because he pinpointed the one particular team he wanted to go to. If he said, I just wanted out, well, you could work out a deal with a multitude of teams to get him up out of there. But the fact that you pinpointed Brooklyn, now it's going to be incumbent upon Brooklyn, A, to decide if they want you, B, how bad they want you, and C, what assets they're willing to give up, and D, who can I work with in terms of a third team around the league to help acquire the assets for us to give to Houston so we could get James Harden?
Well,
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.